Mark, Chris, this was my guy in the neon I was talking about, Andreas. He met you already. There's the neon.
It's always close.
Can we do it? Yeah, perfect. Are they in the struggle bus?
Do you put the waters out, or is that Andre? Dog.
Yeah, there's nothing. Good to see you guys.
Stressful. It's so stressful. Yeah, with the dog.
Yeah, because you can't go up the steps. You can't go on furniture.
I've slept on the floor. I mean, I do what I gotta do.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, please.
Oh, yeah.
Call the roll.
Mrs. Bedford?
Here.
Mrs. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Fulton?
Here.
Mr. Grimm?
Here.
Mr. Violi?
Here. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving on to approval of minutes, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the minutes from March 10th, 2022 as submitted.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Okay.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yeah, yes. Sorry.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. I skipped over public comments. We did not have anybody signed up. Sorry for not mentioning that.
Correct, no public comments.
And moving on to superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Violi. I'd like to begin by inviting Mr. TV Paul up to the podium for an update on the Metro Athletic Conference Leadership Summit.
I'm actually looking for Mr. McCann. Is he in the building here? Oh, there he is. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dolbaum. Good evening, everyone. The Metro Athletic Conference sponsored a Student Athlete Leadership Summit on March 14th. It was sponsored and hosted by Woodridge High School. It was at the Happy Day Lodge in Peninsula, Ohio. This year's theme was, as a leader, your influence is never neutral. Breaking that down a little bit, it's being decisive, positive, forthright, and honest. We had 5 student athletes, all underclassmen, that were selected to attend from each school district, each of the 8 school districts in our league. Students participated in group discussions and a question and answer period with several speakers. Our students that attended did an excellent job during this event. At this time, I'd like to introduce those students and that represented Streetsboro High School. Mr. McCann and Ms. Taylor were the people who selected these student athletes. First, Sydney Abul. Cindy here this evening? Come on up, Cindy. Sydney. Alyssa Schofield. Alec Hassan. Madeline Genovese. Now, Madeline was selected. She had a scheduling conflict and couldn't attend the summit, but we felt that because she was selected, she should be here this evening. So thank you, Madeline. Thank you. Our 2 other student athletes were males. Both Charles Ivory and Preston Hopperson are at a track meet at Aurora this evening and could not make it. But again, want to congratulate these young ladies, these 2 young gentlemen as well, for a job well done and representing our district with great character and pride. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, ladies, and thank you, Mr. TV Paw. And the board, I just want to remind you that when Streetsboro and the other school districts involved in the MAC, when we formed the Metro Athletic Conference, one of the primary reasons for doing that is we wanted to create more leadership opportunities for our student athletes. And this is an example of that goal. Obviously, the pandemic put a wrench into our plans for a couple of years. So I believe, Randy, wasn't this the first or was this the second leadership conference for students?
This was the second. 3 years ago, Cloverleaf hosted. In fact, next year, Streetsboro will be the host school.
So in case you didn't hear that, we had to skip a year last year. Prior to that, Cloverleaf hosted, and now we get to host next year. So again, I want to say one more quick congratulations to these young ladies and men, because that's an outstanding accomplishment. Next, I'd like to invite Mr. McCann up to the mic, back up to the mic to talk about the SAT testing and some recognition about that. Mr. McCann? Looks like Mrs. Simmons as well. Sorry, Kelly, I didn't have your name.
She was a surprise guest, so I didn't tell you, so that's my fault. So I wanted to quickly recognize some of our students for their performances on the ACT, which we recently took on March 2nd, which every student in Streetsboro High School who is a junior had the opportunity to take the SAT, which of course is a nationwide test along with the ACT. So I want to introduce Ms. Simmons first to come up, who is our SAT testing coordinator, to talk to you a little bit more about the SAT and why we choose to give the SAT, and I want to bring up some students for recognition of their achievements while taking the SAT this past March.
So probably one of the not worse things to talk about as an educator or student or parent is more and more testing, right? Especially in what we're doing right now here in the spring. But one of the things that we always tell students at the high school is the SAT, or getting prepared for it, is the test that pays you back. So it's not just for us as a state or us as a school district, but it's truly for the student. So because it does open up different college admission and scholarship opportunities for them. So it is definitely to their benefit and to our benefit to see them succeed post-high school. So one of the things that we did about 7 years ago when that state mandate came down that all students were going to take a college entrance exam in their junior year was to really try to be mindful and purposeful about how we prepare students for that test, because we know that it can open up those opportunities for them. So what we do is in 8th grade, they get that introduction with a PSAT. In 8th grade, they do it again in 10th grade, and then they have the option if they want to do it again in 11th grade. And having that exposure to the test really helps prepare them for when they sit for the SAT as a junior. And then meanwhile, we expose them to different things that will help, like Khan Academy and different things that our teachers do within the classroom that help prepare them for success. So really trying to build a college-bound culture, but then also our students who are non-college bound also benefit from this because they get to not only experience this as an opportunity, but to also build on the skills and see where their strengths lie in the SAT and for those strengths for the future. So we're really excited that we're not only building that program, but we're also modifying it as we go along and as our students change. So I'm really proud of these kids here today and all of our students.
So most of these students are here today. Some were 50-50 if they were able to make it. So I'm just going to call them all up right now. So Sophia, Alyssa, Caleb, Sam, Haley, and Megan, if you guys are up or in here, you guys can come on up. So among our junior class, we had 6 students who scored in the 90th percentile or higher nationwide on the SAT, which is an incredible accomplishment. And so we wanted to bring them up and recognize them. So first one up is Sophia Marcini. You want to raise your hands? So Sophia scored a 1290 out of 1600, which puts her in the 90th percentile. Next up is Alyssa Schofield. Alyssa scored a 1300, which put her nationally in the 91st percentile. Next up is Caleb Fisher, who is not here, Haley Ross, who is not here, and then Sam Laby. Sam, Caleb, and Haley all scored a 1330, which put them in the 93rd percentile nationwide. And then last but not least is Megan Solly. I want to give a little special extra recognition to Megan. Megan scored a 1490, which puts her in the 99th percentile nationwide.
Wow.
So once again, I just want to give a shout out to all of these students here, and not only these kiddos here, but our juniors who worked extremely hard this year, and then the staff who prepared them extremely well for the SAT. You know, we're really putting a heavy emphasis on our academic performance at the high school, whether it's through end of course exams, through our PSAT program, our SAT program, really to put our kids in the best position to succeed, whether that is if they want to go to post-secondary at the college level or even the workforce, but we want to make sure that we're doing whatever we can to prepare our kids. And I think these 4 kiddos up here, as well as the 2 who are not here, are just great examples of just the amazing academic students that we have at Streetsboro High School. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, students, and I want to give a shout out to all of our students, the parents as well. The parents had a lot to do with this, but also Mr. McCann and the high school guidance staff, Ira Campbell and Kelly Simmons. It was, I think Kelly said 6 years ago, but I may not have heard that correctly. It was their idea to introduce and start having the students take the PSAT at certain intervals. The PST really gives our students and our staff a good idea of our students' strengths and perhaps where we need to maybe work with our students. And they use that data each year to help drive instruction. So that's a hats off to the staff here at the high school and at the middle school, because they all use that data to help change instruction in the classroom. And these young ladies and men up front are a testament to all that hard work. So congratulations to all of you. Finally, I'd like to invite Mr. Isle up to talk about our new math adoption at the secondary level. Mr. Isle.
Thanks, Mr. Delbaugh. It's really exciting that we have a board meeting where we get to talk so much about academics. It's kind of a great way to start the evening. Yeah, in a few minutes, we're going to ask for your approval for the Big Ideas math curriculum for the middle school and high school. Before I do that, I do have a handout for all of you, and I don't want to lose my stuff. Sorry. We need a bigger podium.
I'll get it. Okay.
Thank you.
The first page has the 3 quotes that we went through, but I wanted to give a quick history on the process that we went through to come to the decision that we would like you to consider the big ideas from Cengage Learning. The process started 3 years ago when I first arrived here in Streetsboro. We were all ready to move forward with the Big Ideas math adoption, and unfortunately there was this date that will live on forever in my mind, March 12th or March 13th, when they said we were going to go on a 2-week shutdown, and we had to completely change the way we were thinking and move towards a one-to-one Chromebook purchase. So we had to table this purchase. But I really need to thank the high school, middle school math departments primarily, specifically the department chair, Ryan Spence, principals Brett McCann and Lindsay Zanker were also really involved 3 years ago, as well as Michelle Kravitz is one of the very outspoken middle school teachers that helped with that committee. They put a lot of work, and I'd really like to thank that entire department for their patience in getting us to this point here tonight. I do have to say a little bit about Big Ideas. It is not a traditional math textbook adoption similar to the one that we purchased for our secondary math classes in 2008. It's dynamic, it's flexible, it's really focused on conceptual understandings, helping the kids understand the why that we so desperately need our kids to understand when it comes to mathematical reasoning. I'm really excited about this, but most importantly, I'm really excited about the one-to-one platform that it provides. So it really is a nice program that's going to allow our children to fully, effectively, at least in the area of mathematics, use the huge investment that we have in the Chromebooks where the kids can take them home. As a parent, I have 2 children that recently graduated from high school, and I quickly realized about the 8th grade, maybe their freshman years, when I realized I could no longer help them as a parent on their math homework. It's been quite a few years since I've sat in any type of high school math class. And what I really like about Big Ideas is that they have several opportunities for kids to get online tutoring help at home after the school day's over. What's really cool about it, it's kind of like the way I did my personal taxes. You know, I run into a bit of a problem, somebody pops up on the screen, hey, how can we help, type deal. And what's really neat about this company is that all of those online tutors are available in our time zone. They're based in Erie, Pennsylvania, which is just a short drive away. And I think that's a real huge selling point for our families that want to support their kids at home, because we know that learning is not just a 6-hour endeavor here at school inside the walls of our high school and middle school. I also wanted to point out that we used the American Rescue Plan dollars, the recovery dollars for this entire purchase. I know it's a 3-year grant, but because of our relationship with this company, they were able to get us an 8-year online subscription, using our American Rescue Plan dollars. I think that's a great investment. So we will not really have to be thinking about a secondary adoption until 2030. I did the math. 8 years. Sorry, a little math humor for the math presentation. I'd like to finish real quick with just a 1-minute video to show you. I'm not familiar with this computer. Just a quick tutorial on how to use, it's called CalcChat and CalcView. And I think you're going to be impressed. At least I was, but I'm kind of geeky that way. So hopefully the sound's turned up.
CalcChat and CalcView are student supports available for select items within both the Dynamic Student Edition and within digital assignments. Students will find CalcChat support within the Dynamic Student Edition wherever the CalcChat logo appears. CalcChat supplements your classroom teaching by providing your students with worked out solutions and free live tutor help. To take advantage, click the solution icon when available, and the stepped out solution will appear on the screen. Click the live tutor icon and be connected to a live tutor via chat during scheduled hours of operation. CalcView provides video tutorials of an instructor working through the solution. Look for the guided solution link to take advantage of this support. These videos bring the problem-solving process to life, helping students gain understanding. The teacher can enable both CalcChat and CalcView supports when assigning digital activities. Just select those from the list of help options to enable for students.
Like I said, I'm really excited about that feature for our teachers. It's a website, it's an online platform that I think is going to be really easy for our teachers to use and be able to collaborate digitally. It interfaces perfectly with our Google Classroom platforms that we're already using for digital content. And so I hope that you will consider this a huge improvement to the instructional strategies that we want to employ here, grades 6 through Algebra 2. So hopefully you'll agree with me that this is the way we need to go. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Board, any questions or comments?
Yeah, I just have one question. The total cost indicated here, that is for 8 years, right?
That is the
Total
8-year cost.
for 8 years, okay.
The only thing that I did not include, the initial 2-hour PD that we're going to be hosting, if the board approves on June 2nd, is included with that, but we're also going to use some of our stimulus money to provide ongoing professional development throughout the summer to pay our teachers a small stipend according to our negotiated agreement. So they're paid for their time to be able to get this rolling as it should. We've agreed to that, and we really want to make that available for the teachers. So there's some professional development costs, mainly in stipends for our staff.
And
So
we'd
they're
have
not
that
volunteering
anyways
their
with
time.
a change, so that
Exactly.
makes sense. Okay.
We did not want to wait till August or when they're back managing 130 students on their class list to really fully understand how the program works.
And for ESSER funds, the ARP
That's
funds,
what it is,
American
okay.
Rescue Plan.
I apologize.
It is, we're purchasing it now. There just we have access to the platform for those extended amount of years, but it is now. It's not like it's segmented years down the road. It's purchasing now within the allowability of the grant.
With the grant money, okay.
Yes. Okay.
So is there a similar platform, I see it's, like you said, 6th through, what, Algebra, or Algebra 2. Is there something similar for DEFR, for our younger kids on the horizon?
If you remember, the board voted in last year for the Bridges program, which is the pre-K to 5 program. So it as well as a conceptual math program where, happy to report, I know that I'm going a little off script, Mr. Dalbaugh, but every time I get into the classrooms and visit math classes, I ask the children, I'm like, boy, is this like indoor recess? And they're like, oh no, this is math class, and we love math this year because the kids are up talking and really engaging, and the feedback that I'm receiving from our elementary staff is that, getting the kids engaged in talking about mathematics really is mission critical. We've got to build excitement with our young ones and get them thinking mathematically, so that when it's time to really apply those skills in grades 6 through Algebra 2, the kids have a sound foundation. So happy to report using the recovery money, the that was so graciously provided us by the federal tax dollars, that we have a pre-K to Algebra 2 curriculum for the first time in a lot of years here in Streetsboro. And please know that, for our juniors and seniors who are taking those advanced classes, we have already made purchases for the AP curriculums, and most of those students are taking statistics and AP Calc, and we've worked using this money as well to upgrade those texts as well.
Cool, thank you.
So really excited about mathematics.
And I do want to add for Mr. Ryle, if you don't mind, the American Rescue Plan, the ARP dollars, there is a federal requirement for, it's called 20% for learning loss, and then 80% for pandemic-related activities. So, but the district, because we have these great facilities, you'll see a lot of districts around here that are doing, throughout the state, that are doing very large HVAC projects, construction type projects. We flipped that here. It's a large majority of the dollars is going towards our students and instruction.
Perfect.
That's great.
And just to add to that, I know Mrs. Bedford and Mr. Fulton, you weren't on the board last year. So along with that Bridges math adoption, we also, the district did invest in a math coach. And the math coach, the idea, the concept behind the math coach is to support teachers and instruction as we roll out these new math programs. It's Brittany Valviso, and she's doing a wonderful job. She actually gets into classrooms and helps coach teachers through different concepts or lessons. It might be something that someone says, hey, I'm struggling with this unit, or she's just, she recognizes a unit that's coming up that may be a little more difficult. And so we have invested a significant amount of money in the math coach as well.
Yes, and that math coach is there to support pre-K to 5, or elementary teachers, because many of them are self-contained, teaching multiple subjects, and yeah, it's really nice to be able to support them in that way. Good point, Mr. Delaball.
Any other questions, board? All right, Matt, thank you. And
You're welcome.
Beal,
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Dalbaugh. We're going to move on to Treasurer's report.
I know everybody's excited for the world of school finance.
I waited all day for this today.
I will be brief, and I say that because next month I will be giving the district's 5-year forecast, the board's 5-year forecast, next month as required by Ohio Revised Code.
So
and
wear
so,
your pajamas and bring a pillow.
Yeah.
Exactly. Get your popcorn ready. So today, going to be very quick. We're going to talk about the March General Fund and then tax revenue timeline. So this was the March General Fund activity. I like to do a 4-year look back. And so we received our tax settlement revenues last month. It's one of our largest months of revenue. And that's through tax settlement revenues and then 2 state foundation revenues. There's always 2 state foundation payments per month. And that is incorporated with House Bill 110, the Fair School Funding Plan, which I have been educating myself for the last few months on that, and I'll talk about it next month. So we received $4.2 million in receipts, and we dispersed about $2.1 million from 2 payrolls, utility payments, and sped ed expenses. So our revenues exceeded our expenditures by around $2 million. And we have a general fund cash balance of $13.2 million. So this is, and I wanted to kind of, I've been talking about a lot of, it's monthly deficits, monthly surpluses. Really, the deficit gets a bad rap sometimes, and really the benchmark is are you doing deficit spending for the year? The reason why is that schools in Ohio are funded through tax collections and through state foundation dollars, through federal dollars, but really we receive the majority of our revenue in July, August, February, and March. The other months, we are monthly deficit spending, but that's roughly the, over the past 5 years, these months are the majority, the lion's share of our revenues for the year. And that's roughly the schedule that I follow just to kind of forecast and look to see what's coming in. I did note the TPP payments that were eliminated a couple years back and phased out. We do not receive that anymore. It's already been built into the forecast. The last payments were last year. And so it is also important to note that I'm talking about the general fund. That's the majority of the time that I talk up here is the general fund. And the majority of the general fund goes to salaries and expenses for our wonderful staff members, administrators in the district. What you will hear from operations and a lot of other activity, that is not the pot for salaries and expenses, salaries and benefits. That's important to note. So if you're talking about permanent improvement or building fund or classroom facilities fund, that does not, per Ohio and federal law, school districts are siloed in those funds, and that is not, we aren't talking about diverting or taking away from salaries or benefits. So that's it, guys.
That was quick.
Nice job, Kyle.
Are you sure you're done?
Thank you, Mr. Kiffer. Moving on to Chief Business Officer's report, Mr. Scarsapino.
I don't even know how to follow that up.
You got 30 seconds, that's all I had to say.
Make it happen.
Pressure is on.
30 seconds, go.
All right. I would like to introduce Mark and Chris from GPD Group up on stage to give a brief presentation this evening. The past couple board meetings, you've heard me talk about building capital plans, looking for a partner in that, finding the areas where we can say, okay, these are our high priority areas, this is the lifespan of these things, here's how many dollars are going to be associated to fix it, items like that. Well, we sat down with GPD, we feel like they're a great partner in this endeavor, and so I wanted to give them the opportunity tonight to kind of talk about what they do, and we'll be asking for your vote on that later this evening. Chris?
Okay, thank you, CJ. Good evening. I'm Chris Bader. I'm an architect and project manager with GPD. With me tonight is Mark Salopek, also an architect and principal with the firm. And as CJ had said, he came to us asking for our professional services in conducting facility and site assessments to help him put together a long-term plan so that the district can be proactive instead of reactive when it comes to any issues that may come up with your facilities or your sites. So I have a short but sweet presentation to show you and discuss tonight about who we are and in brief the process of our services. So again, I'm Chris Bader, project manager, Mark Salopek, project principal. We have both been at GPD our full professional career. We're going to talk briefly about GPD as a company, so I'll give you an overview, and then we'll talk briefly about the facility assessments for your district, and then we'll have time for Q&A. So GPD Group, we are a national architecture and engineering firm. We are based in Akron, but we do have satellite offices throughout the country. 61 years in the industry, with over 70 professionals, architecture and engineering and interior design and planning dedicated just to K-12. And our department that Mark and I are in, 90% of our work is K-12, so we know that sector very well. Mark will be the executive oversight. I will be your main point of contact. And then below, we're just showing that we're capable of providing all of the different engineering services, mechanical, electrical, civil, structural, as well as interior and landscape. And the only service that we do not provide is technology. And we would be teaming with Verigy. They're out of Columbus, used to be called Dynamics. We have used them for probably close to 20 years on our projects. We have a very well and fine-tuned working relationship with them. So we'll talk about the facility assessments for your project. This is the proposed schedule that was put together, assuming that we begin on 6/1. That's after the students are out for the summer, so that gives us free reign of the building. Don't have to worry about butting in on any of the activities going on with the students. If we started in early June, we would start with the actual facility assessments. We'd bring our full team out, walk all the buildings, take lots of pictures, take lots of notes. And we're giving ourselves about 2 weeks for that task. And then after that, we would have discussions with the business and operations department to identify any potential additional school needs. And then based off of our assessments, we would put together an opinion of probable costs. So based on what we find, we'll put a cost to whether you need to repair, replace, upgrade, whether it's windows, roofs, mechanical systems, electrical, you have it. And then from that opinion of probable costs, we will develop priorities. Is this something that you might want to tackle now versus 5 years versus 15 years or long term? And obviously the costs associated with each task and the issues of each task now are going to create that priority. And then we'll review our results and priorities with the administration, and we would look to present to you, the board, this August at your board meeting. This is just showing the basic steps for the task order process, going from planning to getting an estimate for the work, to scheduling it, actually executing the work, checking the quality, and then at the end, the check, you've improved whatever you have done work on. This is a list of all the items and systems that we will be checking during our facility assessments. So you can see it's quite extensive. It includes the shell of the building, the roof, the windows, the doors, the exterior wall system, as well as the interior layout, the general finishes, and then we get into all of the various engineering disciplines. So the structural, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, technology, and of course, the site conditions, so civil. And we will be following the OFCC guidelines, so the Ohio Facility Construction Commission, which the board, I'm sure, is familiar with. We will be basing our reports off of the guidelines that they give and then the related costs. And our final report deliverables will be a narrative giving you a detailed description of what we find, what we recommend, as well as photos to accompany that text and verbiage, and then our opinion of probable costs that are related to what we feel should be addressed. Like I said, short and sweet. So if you guys have any questions for us,
A couple things I'd like to add. The proposal that you have includes every building, including the tech house, board office. This is how we get to the next level. This is how we make things happen. This is how we plan. This is how we prevent. We can't prevent everything, obviously, but we can prevent some things. And this is working smarter, in my opinion, instead of being reactive every time something goes wrong. So this is why we seek this out. So I just wanted to state that, and this is going to look at, again, all of our assets to see what's needed, what's not needed. And we've already done an initial walkthrough just to get to where we're at here in the proposal, but then we'll get down to the details moving forward. So I just wanted to put that out there in case you didn't have the proposal directly in front of you right now.
I have a couple of questions, but
Go ahead.
probably more for you.
That's okay.
Have we ever done anything like this before? Had the facilities assessed?
No, I don't
That
believe
we
so.
know of? Okay. And then my second question is, I know there's some noted concerns and anything that they might find. Do we have any warranty left or
So,
left
yeah.
on the buildings?
So I noted those concerns as we
Okay.
walked around. So those notes you see in there
Are not
was
official.
from Chris, Mark, myself, Dave Clark, walking around
Okay.
areas of concern that I have in the district that I want them to pay
Okay.
extra attention to, because I don't know enough about it,
Got it.
and I want to learn about it.
Okay.
So warranty work, so when we took over as an operations department, there's a lot of binders that came with the building project.
Yep.
There was warranty information in there. I don't know how much it was being utilized prior. I don't know what the process was, but what our process was, and I can't believe that Elena actually stayed on my team because I lined up a gazillion of these binders on her desk and said, listen, I need you to go through all of these, pull all the warranty information,
Yep.
and put it into a master spreadsheet for us.
Got it.
So we have that. Now, sometimes it's questionable what's warranted, or it might be that product is no longer a product anymore, and we've run into some areas. We've had some warranty work done. What we'll do is we'll investigate all of that
Okay.
when we find out what that is, and,
Yep.
and I will leverage Mark and Chris and say, hey, what do we know about this warranty? What's your professional opinion? Because they also have built buildings and done OFCC
Correct.
projects, so then they would have that firsthand knowledge. So we have the database for it
Okay.
to see if it's warranty work or not.
Yep.
But, another thing I'd like to add is, like, our buildings, they're 5 years old now.
Mm-hmm.
And DEFR is, 20 years old. So, yes, we have an 034 fund. Yes, it's great that we have newer facilities, but when things go wrong, they're gonna go wrong everywhere. So this is how we methodically plan it. And we're at that time frame where things will start to go wrong, right?
Well, and
It's
what we
5
can
years.
do to prevent issues
Yes.
is important. And then anything that new that we purchase, if there is something that we have to do to maintain a warranty, that's important that we stay on top of that as
Correct.
well. Okay,
So
got it.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
No problem.
Sorry I didn't have one for you.
Oh, that's no problem.
I told Chris I would take the hard ones tonight.
Oh, you just stand there.
He's here to look good.
Perfect.
That's what we got him here for tonight. Thank you, Chris. Great job. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend and holiday.
Yes,
Thank
too.
you.
You as well.
Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Mark, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
If I can just jump in real quick.
Yep.
I just wanted to give kudos again to the operations department. Our restructuring, I think this shows why it's working, that they're looking ahead and trying to save us dollars instead of being reactive. And over the years that I've been on the board, there have been some reactive things done because they just didn't look at it. Just, things are going great, so why bother? But this is, I think, good spending of our tax dollars, making sure that future tax dollars are spent wisely and allocated properly. It's not our money, it's the taxpayers' money, so I appreciate that our operations department is looking forward, looking ahead to make sure that things are taken care of properly.
Thank you. And in doing so, we're trying to work smarter, not harder, right? So we're able to leverage, not only trying to be preventative, and again, there will be times where we're going to have to be reactive because there's going to be emergency situations when you're talking about large facilities like this. However, GPD's also been vetted by the Ohio School Council, who we're a member of, so we're leveraging our relationship there once again. It also helps streamline process.
Sure.
So now we don't have to, go open bids and do all these items anymore. We're able to go through them in order to get us where we want to be. And then what's also beautiful about working with GPD is they're gonna now know the facilities. If there's a big project that we need to do, we can then hire them through Ohio School Council on a separate contract to then put the schematics of the project together and do the bidding for us, and then have a meaningful conversation with us about what we need to look at and why. This way, we're always going to be educated on that. So like I told Mark and Chris, I'm looking to build a partnership and not just a one deal here.
Yes, CJ, just so the board is aware, we've had 2 successive 3-year contracts with the Ohio Schools Council. They put out their RFP again about 2 months ago, and 2 weeks ago, we were selected for another 3-year contract.
Yep.
Awesome.
So GPD is the preferred vendor for architectural and engineering services for the Ohio Schools Council.
Yep.
Great.
We have another 3-year contract.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Yeah, Larry Tomic's a great guy.
Yeah, he is.
Larry would be a good reference for it.
Larry's awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. You too.
You as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on that topic? All right. We'll move on. Fuel cloud. So this evening, you're going to be asked under the board president's recommendation to pass a new board policy in regards to fuel. This came from an auditor estate bulletin that Kyle and I were aware of. We worked in collaboration with the Treasurer Department on creating the right policy for Streetsboro. Because originally a policy got sent when you passed policies last month or the month before, I don't remember which one, and we wanted to do something that worked for us. And we learned something as we were building the policy. So I'm going to let Andreas speak to Fuel Cloud and what it does and how it collaborates with our policy.
So previously or currently, our fuel system for the district includes our diesel for the school buses, and then we have gasoline for all of the other vehicles and machinery. We have an outdated system that controls access to that fuel. We're using sort of manual keys. It's a key fob that sits on a driver's keychain. They plug it in, that identifies the vehicle, and then they give some data, and then that basically unlocks the fuel pump. There's been lots of issues in the news, or sort of issues to school districts, where either fuel has been stolen or it's been used for vehicles that aren't district vehicles. And so the board policy that you're looking at today, 8.18, requires the district for bulk fuel operations to keep really tight track of what vehicle are we fueling, who's fueling it, what time, what's the odometer, is it the right fuel, et cetera, et cetera. The district has 2 tanks, so we're pretty small operation. We have a 5,000-gallon tank underground for diesel fuel, and then about a 500-gallon tank above ground for gasoline. For the school buses, no doubt fuel has gone up tremendously over the last 2 months. We take a fuel delivery of about 5,000 gallons every month and a half, depending on how much we drive. And that's gone down a little bit because we have reorganized our fleet. Fuel Cloud is a modern operation. It's basically a box. It's an all-in-one solution that sits on top of our fuel pump within the yard, so it's inside of a fenced-in area. It provides the hardware, software, and then connectivity to the cloud, or to the internet, if you will, to then control the fuel delivery, keep track of it. We will manage our users in the cloud, so just a portal that you log into. Okay, CJ Scarspino needs to be able to fuel up only gasoline vehicles. Click, done. It's sort of up to the second changes. And then when CJ does fuel, we'll be able to pull a report that CJ fueled truck number 2 on Monday at 6:36 a.m. and he fueled for 17.9 gallons of fuel. That reporting then automatically can be exported, every Friday, whatever Mr. Kiffer prefers for ourselves. We'll have a super good idea of how to control the fuel, much better than we are now. Now we have the ability to dispense fuel. Our reporting is lacking severely, and also our ability to sort of provision new vehicles and new users. So this is what it looks like. It's the system that the city uses. And so our first step a lot of the time when we're talking about operations is we call Bill Miller at the city or someone else at the city and say, hey, what do you guys use? In this case, we both used the same vendor for fuel, Great Lakes Petroleum, and so then that connection was made, and we contacted our Great Lakes rep, and he's like, well, this is what the city uses. Why don't we go take a look at it? This is what the box looks like. So city has above ground tanks. This is over by the police station if you wanted to look at it. But basically, it's a touch screen. It's kind of hard to see. I took that picture just a couple hours ago, but it's a touch screen. You just go up and press on it. It'll ask you for your PIN code. You'll just type, whatever your assigned PIN is. What vehicle do you want to fuel? What's the odometer? Click. Fuel is unlocked, and you fuel. So the contract, I think, is well worth it. It's a per month fee, but it includes everything, sort of hardware. If the hardware breaks, software updates, it's all inclusive. Unlimited users, really unlimited fuels and fuel tanks. We only have 2, so super simple setup.
Yep.
So we're excited about that. In speaking with Great Lakes the other day, setup will be as soon as we can, basically. The question was, do you want to wait for the summer? I said, let's set it up as soon as we can because the board policy, so that we can be in compliance post-haste.
And Mrs. Campbell just asked, does that include installation? And I said, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
it's
So,
all,
and it's
all in one.
It's fairly inexpensive, $200 a month.
Yep.
Is what we're looking at here, because we utilize them for fuel, and we always try to leverage our relationships with our vendors in that sense. So that will be on the consent agenda this evening for your vote. That Fuel Cloud system and what it's able to do aligns us with the board policy that you're going to pass this evening.
Yep.
I can't speak to how well the management is of it. I mean, just I know as a user for the city that it's easy to use. I'm sure the city's getting great reports from it because, just like you said, you put your PIN code in, touchscreen, very easy to use. And when I put my PIN code in, and I select, say, gasoline, it only brings up the vehicles that I'm authorized to fuel gasoline, so
Correct.
I don't have a diesel vehicle and accidentally punch the wrong vehicle and start dumping gasoline into some. So it's very easy to use, and I think it's a great idea. You know, again, you're using stuff that's already been proven and
Yep.
using our vendors and.
And we're excited
relationships
too,
with the city.
or I was excited to find out that you can then, as a user of the system, use it the way you prefer. So PIN code, which we think most of our folks, especially our bus drivers, will use, you can load the app on your phone so that when you pull up to the fuel cloud tank, it'll say, welcome, what do you want to fuel up? And you can do it off your phone. I think some of our maintenance folks will do that because it'll be just easier to hit all the buttons and put the odometer in before you even get out of the truck that you're fueling. So.
All right. Any more questions on that? Okay. Moving on, Chromebooks. So, you know, during COVID, we said we were going to take the initiative of going to a one-to-one program. With that comes refresh cycles and continuing on with that. So we are in one of those refresh cycles. We'll have a refresh cycle every single year to keep the fleet where it goes. Average lifespan's about 3 years on Chromebook devices. You get a little longer, but it's not quite long enough to ever use PI dollars for, which is unfortunate. So we're in a refresh cycle this year where we're going to need a quantity of 500 Chromebooks to continue that one-to-one cycle. And as we just talked about, lifespan. Something that we're working on the horizon is we're hoping that when fees are going to be passed by the board for next school year, we'd like to incorporate a technology fee. And working with Kyle, we'll create an account where that technology fee will then go into, and we will be able to utilize that to help keep our Chromebook program being refreshed, and also help with break fix and items like that. So that's something that's on the horizon that we're looking at. So that is going to be under a recommendation this evening for passing. What we're doing is leveraging a couple different sets of funds to make that purchase. So the dollars that we saved on the BenQ purchase, so we had a budget of, I don't know, 90-some thousand dollars, and it came in around 75. We're taking a portion of that from the ESSER funds, and then also we're taking another $55,000 that we had allocated for a project in ESSER funds for operations that we're going to figure out a different way to fund that project, because there are other ways to make that happen. And then we are using some general fund dollars also in incorporation with that. So that is how we're going to fund that Chromebook. We did not have to go to Kyle and say, please change appropriations and build more budget in the general fund. We were able to work it all in within our budgets for this year. So moving forward, we're either going to need to institute a technology fee, or we're going to have to be okay with budgeting between $70,000 to $115,000 a year in technology to continue on with the one-to-one program, just for complete transparency. So what we did was we went to our vendors and said, listen, this is what we need. Bring your best foot forward. And we've done this several times, Andreas and I, and we know who the vendors are that are going to bring their best foot forward and who might not. And so we utilize that to get the best pricing for our school district. So you can see in the memo that was provided in our recommendation, I think the high was $114,500 for the license and the devices. Here's the benefit of having the operations team. We take those and then we go back and rework these deals and try to get the best pricing we possibly can. And you can see that we were able to work with our Staples vendor and get total pricing with the license for $94,800. It's a savings of almost 20 grand. So.
And these are something to know about Chromebooks, and I think I've shared that in the past over the last couple of years. They are, they're not bare bone devices, but it's very difficult for the vendors to make money off of the Chromebooks. And so then when we have a relationship with a vendor that, I mean, he came in $30 below any other vendor per unit. And one of our main items that we ask for is we need them in stock. So we're asking for quantity 500 for the quote. You need to have them in your warehouse. Not future delivery, not delivery in October, not hopefully when they can get released on a boat across the Pacific. Got to have them.
And the snag with that always is they always need a PO to hold them.
Right.
But we can't issue the PO until you all vote on that. So Mr. Kiffer and I created a process a couple weeks ago of how we're going to handle that, so we could have the PO in hand this evening after the meeting if we vote in favor of that this evening, and then we'll get it to the vendor immediately and hope that they still have them in stock, but we believe they still do after some conversations we've had.
Which that's a big issue right now, is there's a huge shortage on technology and pieces and devices and all that, so.
Yep, that's why
Yeah.
we're getting started on this now, because we want it now, have it done, and I think the devices are in Florida, and have them here soon, so that we can start working on them for next year and not take delivery like mid-July, and then have to figure out how to get it where they need to be before the students come back.
And so what I'm hearing is a majority of the cost of this is going to be ESSER funds this year.
There's, I would say 60% of
Okay.
it or so will be ESSER,
Okay.
and then there'll be a chunk from the general fund. I have that breakdown
That's fine.
if you'd like to see it.
It's okay.
But we got creative in how we funded it, and Kyle and I had a couple good discussions on how to get there, and we figured it out, so.
Yeah,
Great.
and I didn't want, and I work with Mr. Isle a lot on ESSER dollars and talk to the leadership staff just about general ESSER, and we didn't want to overreach our ESSER hand,
Sure.
if that makes sense. So this is kind of, we do know that there's a lot of conversations about ESSER, ARP ESSER.
Yeah.
But this is something that we did not want to expend everything out of.
Okay.
We worked within the ESSER dollars we were afforded in our ESSER budget. We didn't
Understood.
go take any more extra ESSER dollars from any other areas, so.
Well, I think the bottom line is our kids need to be using technology. That's where every employer is,
Yeah.
no matter what field you're in. So we have to continue down this road for them.
I agree, and to go off of what Mr. Isle's presentation, a lot of our curriculum is now coming in technology
Yes.
form. So your textbooks are coming via the Chromebook, and all of your apps are online apps. So we have to continue to support it, because that's where our curriculum is moving. So we got to figure out a way to sustain, and I think that we're figuring out some ways, but a technology fee will be very helpful. And hopefully when we're ready for fees, we'll have that prepared for you.
Okay.
All right, moving on. This is one that we're really excited about. You may have seen it as you walked in tonight, but we took some pictures to show you. A School Pride project, a company in Columbus. We worked with the high school team. Mr. McCann was a big part of this. Miss Taylor, when she was here, was a big part of this. It took a little while to get them installed, because you have to have the right weather, the right temperature, and all that good stuff. So we went through some trials and tribulations in getting that done. Something that's really cool about these is that's how it looks like from the outside, which is beautiful aesthetically in my opinion. But on the inside, it's like the sticker is not even up. You can see right out the doors, no problem, which really threw me for a loop the other day when they were doing the install. I walked out into the commons after they were here.
Contain Mr. Scarsapino.
Yes, and they've been here for a while, and they showed up a little late, so I was already upset about that. And I come into the commons, and I look to my right, and I look to my left, and it doesn't look like there's anything on the windows. And so I'm like, where are the vendors? And then Brett looked out the window, and he peeked around the corner. He's like, CJ, wait. They're up. I'm like, they're not up. He's like, come out here. And so then we saw that. So I think they look awesome. The one to your right there that was outside the annex office, because we have baseball and softball and wrestling and middle school wrestling and wrestling tournaments and professional development and PASC meetings, all these other districts come and see this building. We're trying to modernize it and make it aesthetically look pleasing. So we felt this would be a really cool addition when you come in the main entrances. You see that instead of an office with some old curtains hanging up on it. The curtains have been taken down, and now that's what you see. And then up the academic wing stairs where that rocket emblem is, that's where the overhangs are from the doors entering the academic wing. And when you would reach the top of the steps, you would see the overhang with a drain and dirt, and it just did not fit the building. As you walk through the building, you have this beautiful building, and then you would see that. So that sticker, it's gray on the outside. We can do another sticker later on the other side of that matches it. But if you're looking to it from the outside, it just looks like a gray window. But from the inside, that's what you see. But we felt that would be a nice touch from the inside for our students to see it as they walk by it every day. All right. And then one of the final items, we have a couple more additional items, but start and stop times for the next school year. So we put together a work group, all the building principals, myself, Mrs. Devers, Mr. Isle, Mr. Dalbaugh, and we were trying to figure out how can we be more efficient? How can we be more efficient and more effective with our resources? Transportation is a problem. We all know that. Like, we're doing everything we can to get better at it. I don't foresee, 10 more drivers walking in the door and us having what we need anytime soon. So we have to figure out what can we do to try to prevent any delays or any major delays. And, we have road construction as well that we're dealing with now too. And Mayor, thank you for having that conversation with me yesterday and helping me with that problem. I greatly appreciate that. I want to give you a shout out for that. But we got to figure something out. So we sat down, we talked with all the buildings and said, this is kind of what would help us with transportation. Would it help you with your schedule? And what we found was every building was like, yes, this would help us with our scheduling. This would help us with scheduling, all the different times we need to follow within the contract. This is going to help us with the lunch schedule, everything like that. So what you'll see is what it came up with collaboratively. The only thing operations said was, these are the windows we need for drop-off time and pickup time that we feel would be the most efficient for our fleet to get there.
And that was really just the travel time between high school and middle school.
But if you feel like it doesn't work for you, then let's have that conversation. However you schedule your buildings inside of what that looks like, that's up to you. There's no big changes here. They're already at the elementary school, they take car riders at 8:30 a.m. That's when they start to take the car riders. What that's doing is just saying, okay, now we're opening the doors now at 8:30, that's the time you come, not 8 o'clock. And it's giving us the window that we need. So minimal changes here, but this is what the group came up with in an attempt to eliminate some of the problems that we're having, not so much in the morning, but more so in the afternoon. The buses getting back onto main campus to pick up the elementary students. Because, for an example, you get stuck in front of the high school for 9 minutes, you're now 9 minutes behind on your route, and then you're getting back to the elementary school 15, 20 minutes after the original pickup time. And now we have staff still waiting there with students, and it just becomes an issue. And we acknowledge that. We see it, and we're working hard. But the only way to do it is to try and do different things. So this might work great, it might fail. We vetted it out the best we could. We had everybody as a part of the group, and so we're hoping it's going to be extremely successful. If it's not, we'll adapt. That's what we'll do, and we'll try to figure it out with our needs. So we just wanted to present this to you as something that we're looking at and something that we're hoping to go to. I think we pretty much are settled as a group. We are going to go to this because we had all the people that it affects in the room making those decisions. And if it doesn't work, we'll say we tried and we'll figure out something else. But we got to try something.
Do we think the timing change will help with athletics too, transporting in the afternoon?
I think that the real challenge
I mean,
is
given if we're fully staffed,
yeah,
right?
the real challenge is the staffing.
That's what I thought.
And so we're fully planning in the fall to run the same, we call it a transportation scheme that we're doing now. So
Okay.
sort of the whole fleet picks up middle school, high school,
Yep.
returns, picks up elementary. We just don't have enough drivers to drive sort of a different tier system. I will say too, and I've shared this with CJ and Amanda in transportation.
Is that beeping?
I'm not going to say it. It's Kyle's.
When we were building this schedule, we were trying to build it, trying to think like, how will
Right.
this help us?
Absolutely.
It's still a matter of staffing at the end
I
of the
agree.
day. But the biggest things are, currently the high school and middle school start at the same time right now. And so that creates kind of an issue.
We're putting that on the board, just so you know.
They're not going to start at the same time anymore.
Got it.
Yep.
And then
Okay.
this is giving a good time frame between DEFRA and SES
Yep.
as well. And then the end of day pickup time as well. Because in some cases, dismissal was starting, 10, 15 minutes early, but the buses aren't there yet. So
Correct.
this is going to then extend that end of the day to where the buses can hopefully be there.
Got it.
And what we're seeing at the state level, I think we've shared that before when we redid our transportation scheme, is that other districts were not able to redesign overnight. We're
Correct.
sort of in the middle of the semester or the middle of the year. So they're running what's called a quad scheme where they have their fleet come to the elementary school, they pick up half the elementary school, deliver them home, they come back, pick up the other half, which then results in 30, 45 minutes of additional time for staff. And whenever I meet those districts, I've been in Columbus once or twice presenting and meeting other transportation folks. Amanda and I are in a program there, and they're like, that's all we could do. We were not able to redesign, and that's a huge amount of then overtime for staff. It's a big strain on staff having to supervise kids way late. And so if you're ever in Columbus, you'll see Columbus City. They're still delivering kids home 5:30, 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And Andreas sits on pretty much he's been asked to sit on pretty much every board known to mankind in regards to transportation, which is great. And he gets a lot of really good information to help us plan this out. And he hears what other districts are doing or what's not working elsewhere, and that helps us. So I want to thank the entire team, though, all the principals that were a part of it, Mrs. Devers, Mr. Isle, Mr. Dalbaugh, everybody taking the time to make this a priority and get this figured out. So hopefully it works. We feel strongly it will, but you never know till you try it. So we're going to try it.
Speaking of school buses, we are excited to host not the first school bus rodeo, but the rodeo has been closed for a couple of years due to COVID. Every year for the last 20, 30 years, school bus operations have hosted a rodeo. There are 9 regions in the state of Ohio in terms of how we think of school bus transportation. The rodeo is a competition between drivers. There's a regional rodeo, and that'll happen next Saturday here on our campus. The winners there will advance to the state rodeo, and then there's further competition available after that. Competition elements, we start the day with a written exam, sort of, do you know your stuff theory-wise? Then there's a pre-trip, which is things that we do every day, but more from a competition perspective, like did you find the fluid on the timing belt of the school bus? And then that'll be one thing that they have to check off. And then we go into what I think of the rodeo itself, which is reverse serpentine. And for those of you that are not used to driving large vehicles, that's when we drive in reverse between cones with a school bus. No problem. Diminishing clearance, and I'll show you a picture here in a little bit. Basically, do you know where the sides of your bus is so that you can decide when it's enough and the gates are too tight. Offset gate, you come in, kind of have to maneuver your bus left or right through another gate. And then normal pickup and drop-off skills. So we actually then have judges that are either trainers or supervisors will judge, did you pick up where the kid is on the curb? Did you do it correctly? Did you stop in time? Was it nice and smooth? Things like that. And the drivers get points, and we put all those things together, and then we have a winner. As of today, just this afternoon, we have about 45 competitors signed up from lots of different districts. One district that I had never even heard of. It's in Northeast Ohio region, so I'll have to find them on a map. It's very exciting. They're coming next week. This is the diminishing clearance, the idea being you're coming in with your school bus, and it all happens in one go. And so they're going to start at the middle school stadium entrance, basically. We're going to use the road around the middle school to line up. They're going to come out, do some maneuvering in the parking lot itself, come down on Anna Lane, do their pickup and drop off, come back through the annex lot, do some weaving and there, and then cross over a fake railroad track over by transportation, then they're done. They do all that in sort of one go. So this one here, obviously, if you bump the tennis ball, then you don't know where the side of your bus is. I will say, our bus drivers are amazing in general with their skills. I pointed something out to CJ the other day. All of a sudden, we were in the middle of traffic for some reason, and we heard a bus honk, and it was backing up with the backup beeper. And he's like, oh, are they going to figure that out? Are they going to be able to back into the garage? And no problems. And that's called an alley dock, and that's something that we would expect everyone that drives a bus to be able to do. Apparently, as a firefighter, you don't need a CDL, which is
That's true, but
concerning to me.
some of us that have been around for a long time have it.
We should, oh, we do.
Yes.
Who wants to substitute bus driver?
I knew that was going to be the next question.
The cat's out of the bag.
I meant to say,
Too late.
I will say, I would never want to drive a bus. Mayor, I will drive fire trucks all day long. Please don't ever ask me to drive a bus. And the rodeo, I've seen it in the past. It seems like a fun activity for our drivers, but it's very serious skills. There's a lot to do for a bus driver.
Yeah. So the rodeo really takes the skills that we would expect. We don't do a reverse serpentine. That never happens out on the road. But all of the other skills are directly translatable into what happens every day. Driving around road construction, for example. You have to know what the size of your bus are, picking up and dropping off kids. So the rodeo, we do it with a little more precision. And we're excited. Our pre-service coordinator for this region, her name is Lori Fanger. She is a state winner, and so she is part of sort of our rodeo team, so she knows exactly what it takes to really produce high results. So next week, we wanted to just let you know too, and sort of let the public know, we'll post it on our website. We're planning to close Anna Lane during competition, because competition will actually happen on Anna Lane. So we're working with the city, get some barricades and some cones. Spectators are welcome, but I would we'll put that on our website, sort of plan to arrive a little bit early. We do have some very precise spectator areas because the competition is very stiff and we don't want people to scope out sort of what it might look like. And you should know that buses from other districts, the way we do our competition buses is that they are all exactly the same model. So drivers have a choice of conventional, which is what you would think is a normal school bus, and then a transit model, which is the one that's flat on both sides. And you can choose which one you want. So for example, Akron and Kent have exclusive transit fleets. So they don't drive the other one. So their drivers would not choose to compete in a conventional bus. We're using buses from other districts to do that so that they are all the same. So Akron are providing some competition buses, Nordonia, Kenston, so that it's all sort of 4 or 6 or 8 buses that are same model year, looks exactly the same so that we don't have arbitration requests.
Big shout out to Amanda and Andreas and Lori Fanger for planning this event here at Streetsboro. We're more than happy to host. But a lot of time and effort has gone into this, and it builds not only a buzz about Streetsboro and they get to see all the wonderful things going on here, but great culture with our drivers and gives them an opportunity to showcase their skills. And we've found out through this process that we've had some drivers that have competed in states and have done all kinds of great things in the rodeo.
Sharon Fisher, and she does not, for some reason, want to compete this year.
But I did tell her the other day I expect her to compete and win a state title.
Right.
That's the expectation.
No pressure.
No
And
pressure.
we're still hiring bus drivers, right?
For sure.
So next year they could be doing this.
Yes.
Come.
And one of the cool things about the rodeo is that if you compete in the rodeo and you score 80% or more, which most of our drivers will, it's sort of really at the margin where we pick the winners, and they don't have to attend class to renew their certificate. So bus drivers have to renew their certificate every 6 years, mandatorily by state law. So if they attend and compete in the rodeo, then they don't have to do that part, because then they've shown, I know the rules, I know how to drive a bus at I would say at an expert level, and so we take that for what it's worth.
Okay, and then additional items, or unless you have anything else on the rodeo?
No.
Okay. We've been doing all kinds of projects district-wide, trying to promote culture and buildings and things of that nature. You've seen this year the tree plantings out front, Senior Rock last year. We worked with Mr. Kidd's class on the tree plantings. We have some other things that we're going to be working with the other buildings on, so stay tuned. But this was something pretty cool that we worked with Mrs. Durkin's class. They came up with a great idea of let's put pictures of our student body on the walls here, and we can do it all in-house. And so when we visited with Mr. McCann, he said, we meet with them on Fridays. He said, hey, we need to go talk to the journalism class and the photography class and have you guys take a look at this, because we need to make sure whatever's going on the walls isn't going to peel paint and all those kinds of things, and give permission on location and stuff like that. So when you walk through the high school, you're going to start seeing these things, and it's just great memories throughout the year for the student body, and it includes everyone. It's very inclusive. I think it's a great program that they're running, but we just wanted to share that with you to show, yet again, something cool that's going on in the buildings that are being talked about. So.
I love that you're working with the kids.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the cool part. You're not just putting up pictures that you're choosing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kids that are doing it.
Yep.
And I think it gives them we get a chuckle, because when our custodians sort of, when they hear initially, oh, they're going to double back duct tape, they just break out in a cold sweat and hives.
Sure.
And, so just
Sure.
making the project workable so that it works for the whole building, for the whole operation.
Well, and that is another way of really just growing pride in your school and respect for your building.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, that's
That's
what it is.
the biggest thing, yeah.
So, awesome.
Sorry for the lengthy report, but we have a lot of things going on.
I
and
think
we wanna
Mr.
share
Kiffer
those.
yielded some of his time to
think
us.
so, too.
Automatic is what it is.
So, sorry. That concludes my
Does that
report.
conclude your report?
It does. It does.
Thank you very much. Moving on to board reports, Ms. Bedford?
Yes, I have a few in athletics. So our softball team is currently 1-4 overall and 1-3 in the MAC.
It's 4-1. You said 1-4.
It does say 1-4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally, I'll ignore that. I was reading the wrong thing.
Sorry.
One demerit.
I think that's two. That's two now. I'm
She
kidding.
didn't
Thank
help you with your treasurer report.
That's true.
When I get to the names, he can help me with the names. How about that? Let's see, a couple softball highlights here. Kennedy Dana has 3 home runs. I believe that's what it means. Bella Leonardi has a .75 batting average. Nikki Roman pitched a 1-hitter versus Cloverleaf. And we have 4 seniors that committed to playing softball in college, so congratulations. Baseball, we are currently 4-1 overall and 3-1 in the MAC. Senior Mike Sweet is 2-1 pitching and has a 1.4 ERA. Freshman Jack Batten is leading the team in batting average at .5, or I should say 500. Jake Smolik is hitting a .455, and Colby Benjamin is hitting .417, or if that's how you say that in baseball terms. So congratulations. And then track, the boys are 4-1 in the MAC, and the girls are 2-2. The boys are currently ranked in the top 10 in several of their events. They placed overall at Lakeview Relays, and let me see here. In this meet, the boys set a new event record in the sprint medley. The team was made up of Amari Steve, Preston Hopperton, Kylan Rue, and Mackay Schuster. So that's it. Congratulations to them.
Thank you, Mrs. Bedford. Moving on, Trace, Mrs. Campbell, do you have a report?
I do. Okay. PTA went ahead and elected a new board. Liz Curtis is the returning PTA president for next year. So congratulations to her and her new board. They have a number of activities going on. April and May is a very busy time for them. I would encourage you to look at their Facebook page. They have a flower delivery. Pickup is 4/26. Teacher Appreciation Week is May 2nd to 6th. There's a program at DEFR. More book donations are needed for One Book, One School. Streetsboro Elementary is needing assistance with Right to Read Week. And May 6th, they have a fundraiser at Fun and Stuff, and there is a Kalahari fundraiser in June that I believe they're sold out of, but if there are rooms still available, Kalahari will give you the Streetsboro rate. Good fundraising opportunity for them. From the Educational Foundation, we have been incredibly blessed with funds to be able to give grants out to employees in the district that see a need. This last meeting, we did approve the purchase of 60 boogie boards. Boogie boards are like, if you think of an adult Etch-a-Sketch, basically. Kids in math classes, Gwen Collins and Dan Stitzel proposed this to us and requested for their math program. They were using whiteboards that can only be cleaned so often, and each child had one. With the just overuse and breakage, this boogie board is reusable. It's an incredible opportunity for them. So we did approve the purchase of 60 boogie boards that will replace the dry erase boards. We also are working on fundraising for the organization. As we continue to give grants out, we want to try and replenish the money that's there. We were approached with the city was kind enough to refer Sergeant Clean, the new car wash that is coming to us. We are doing a fundraiser. It is, Sergeant Clean is donating $5. They're making absolutely nothing off of this. $5 for 60 days of car washes. You can sign up online or you can text SCS to 30400. And at last I heard, I think we've raised about $1,400 already. So we're moving right along, and that was a very small amount of people that we've reached. The other cool thing is one of our graduates did design the postcard and the app, or not the app, I'm sorry, the image. So again, we're trying to use our students, even if they're alums, to help us produce these types of materials. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Fulton?
Governor Mike DeWine signed into law House Bill 597, which provides capital reappropriations, including approximately $442.8 million for local school construction through the Ohio Facilities Construction Commission that received prior conditions approval. There were some other things I had, but I went to hold off on those for now. Let's see if they get approved by our governor.
Thank you, Mr. Fulton. Mr. Grimm?
Thank you. Streetsboro's Bicentennial Celebration kicks off Saturday, April 30th with a pancake breakfast. Admission is by pre-sale tickets only. It's going to be held at the fire station, so buy your tickets online at streetsboro2022.com. Go to the website and click on events. You'll see the information about the pancake breakfast and be able to purchase tickets there. Deffer's Band and Choir Concert is May 11th at 7 o'clock here at the high school auditorium. On Thursday, April 7th, 2 representatives from the Contemporary Youth Orchestra joined the high school band to give a presentation on their ensemble, as well as inform the students of what they have to offer our student musicians. And thanks to Mr. Dawson he always provides great opportunities for our students. And you know, even as they prepare to go to Disney next year, later in the year, it's not just a fun trip, but there's educational opportunities at Disney as well. Percussion clinics in preparation for next fall have started at the high school as well. The clinics will continue in the band room through April 21st. They will then have auditions during the early release period on Wednesday, April 27th. Auxiliary clinics continue weekly on Thursdays at Deffer Intermediate School after the school day is over. The band's high school band spring concert is Wednesday, May 4th at 7 o'clock here at the high school auditorium. Their final performance of the year is going to be, of course, at commencement, Tuesday, May 24th. And a reminder for next year's high school band students, the marching band kickoff is Thursday, May 26th. Time is 3 to 6:30 p.m. Their evening starts at 3 o'clock until 5 with a show reveal and music rehearsal. From 5 to 5:30, there will be a mandatory parent meeting in the high school auditorium. And then at 5:30, weather permitting, they will have a potluck dinner outside. If the weather doesn't cooperate, they will hold it right outside in the cafeteria. And one of our other arts programs, the high school radio station, they do a lot of stuff. They do a lot of fundraising, and it's really throughout the summer, at the early part of the summer. Last year, information I got from Mr. Long, their 2021 membership drive brought in $43,104.50. Bob says that was the second best drive that they've had in the 21 years that they've been collecting funds through this fundraiser. Over the 21 years, they have brought in about $645,711, and that is all from listener support. So the school district does support the radio station, but in order to keep up with technology and other opportunities for the students, they put together this fundraising effort every summer, and they've been doing a great job. So just wanted to give a shout out to Bob and all the staff, and also look for more information coming if you're a veteran of the high school radio station. On July 10th, they will be celebrating the radio station's 50th anniversary, and more information will be coming out later, and we'll share that out with you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Grimm. And I am going to have the shortest report, so I don't have any report. So moving on to consent agenda items. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the consent agenda items B through P.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a first and a second. I just want to mention the donations there. There are quite a few on there, and I believe there's one that I'd just kind of like to call out. Was Popeye's Chicken donated $1,000 to the Building Principal Fund, and that's through a partnership with the city. And I'd like to, I think Patrick O'Malley gets some credit for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Patrick worked with Kyle and I on where funds could be donated. Kyle created a great form for Patrick to provide to the businesses, And when there's not a tax incentive deal where the school's invited to the table, Patrick has been advocating for the school district to receive some funds in that deal. So, yes, thank you, Patrick.
Okay. Any other comments?
Just quickly, I'd like to throw a shout out to our two teachers that are retiring this year. At the conclusion of the school year, both Kelly Thomas and Karen Blyweiss are retiring. They've been pillars of this district for a very, very, very long time. I think even a lot of our board members here, their children may have had one or two of those teachers. So shout out to Kelly and Karen, and enjoy your retirement. It's deserved.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And congratulations. And I'm envious.
You don't have that much longer.
Please call the roll.
He doesn't.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. Moving on to superintendent's recommendations.
Thank you. I have several. Item A is recommended the Board of Education approve the reassignment as shown below, and that would be Julie Taylor to interim Streetsboro Middle School principal for the remainder of the 21-22 school year as agreed upon by Ms. Taylor and the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Item B, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the reassignment of Lindsay Zanker to the Streetsboro High School Assistant Principal for the remainder of the 21-22 school year as agreed upon by Ms. Zanker and the superintendent.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Item C, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the job description as shown in the attachment for Assistant Superintendent, Director of Student Services.
I'll move.
I'll second. We have a first and a second. Any comments?
This would reflect Mrs. Devers moving from Superintendent Pro Tem to her new assigned role as Assistant Superintendent and her duties as Director of Student Services. So we had to create a job description to reflect that change.
No further comments? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, Board, the next two recommendations, our legal team were able to get those to us today. That's why you see those on there. I'll explain both of those as we go through them, but I believe that they'll make sense to all of you once I explain them. So item D, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the Superintendent Pro Tem contract addendum.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have first and a second. Comments?
So this modifies the addendum, or the pro tem contract that all of you put into place when I was absent, so that Mrs. Devers legally could take over as superintendent. So what this does is addresses some language that basically ends that tenure as of today, but also deals with the transition from superintendent to assistant superintendent. So that's what the purpose of the addendum is. And this was vetted by Pebble and Wagner, so they made sure that we were following the.
So legalese.
Yes, so we made sure we did everything correctly.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Item E, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the Director of Student Services contract addendum.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
We have first and a second. Comments?
Yes, so Board, in the past, we have always, when we've promoted an administrator, we've had them resign from their previous employment and then give them a new contract. So rather than unemploying Mrs. Devers for a short period of time, Pebble and Wagner actually thought that this was a cleaner way to do it. So what this does is it adds an addendum to Mrs. Devers' contract to address her new duties as assistant superintendent. Also, it addresses a bump in her compensation, as well as a change in, we're going to be moving forward with all new administrative contracts, doing a set compensation raise every year of 1.5%. And then finally, because Mrs. Devers has become captive to the district for year-round, she is entitled to vacation time. And so this reflects a change in vacation time in the sense that typically your board office administrators don't have the opportunity to use all of their vacation. So this will allow Mrs. Devers to either roll up to 10 days over into the following year or turn up to 10 days in for compensation. Those are the big changes then, and that keeps her current student services contract in place, adds the addendum and additional title of assistant superintendent. Kyle, did I get all that?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. It's a little bit different, obviously, but it was an unprecedented situation. And it's just, I think we can all say we're very appreciative to Mrs. Devers for everything that she has done and will continue to do.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried, and I'd just like to kind of second what
Yeah.
Mr. Kiffer said. Thank you very much for all that you've done. We
Yes.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. My final recommendation is recommended the Board of Education approve the following administrative contract renewals. Mr. Brett McCann as high school principal, a 3-year contract effective August 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2025, and Ashley Gert, Streetsboro Elementary assistant principal effective August 1st, 2022 through July 31st, 2024.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments?
Yes, Board, and I apologize, I'll let you guys talk if you would like to, but this represents a change that Mr. Violi was a part of, along with CJ and Kyle. We met with the administrators, and we've decided to make a change in our administrative contracts. So from this point forward, new administrative contracts are going to approve a set board raise of 1.5% each year. The reason we're doing that is under Ohio Revised Code, administrators should not be participating perhaps in negotiations where they're working on a negotiated agreement and a raise with our teaching staff. One could then typically in the past, our board has then approved that same compensation package for our administrators. What this does is separates that from our administrators so that in essence you're not negotiating your own contract as an administrator. So that reflects, that kind of puts us in line with the Ohio Revised Code. It still is a gray area, but I would rather be safe than sorry. That's the first thing, and then we did a 3-year contract with Brett, and then a 2-year contract with Ashley. Are there any questions about that? Okay.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
That concludes my recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Dahlbaum. Moving on to treasurer's recommendations.
I have to remember the recommendations.
Here we go.
It is recommended the Board of Education approve the revised purpose and budget statements for the Streetsboro Elementary Rotary Fund as shown in the attachment.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
Item B, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the amended appropriations for fiscal year '22, and estimated resources will be adjusted as needed for permanent appropriations.
I'll move.
I'll second.
First and a second, any comments? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Yes, this is, I'm sorry, Mr. Violi, this is for, to kind of set the financial path for the GDP group that Mr. Scarpino talked about. Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
Item C, OSBA Sedgwick 2023 Group Rating Program. It is recommended the board approve re-enrollment for the Comp Management Group Rating Program for Workers' Compensation Policy Year 2023, and the annual fee is $2,000.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments?
Yes, it was, I just like to note that in the past, it's been around $3,500, and after talking to our representative, kind of talked it down to $2,000, and we're very appreciative towards our rep.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
And item D, finally, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the amended and revised agreement and bylaws to the Portage Area Schools Consortium, PASC, effective April 13th, 2022.
I'll move.
Second?
We have a first and a second. Any comments?
Yes, and Mr. Dahlbaugh can help out with this. This is for our Health Insurance Consortium, just Health Insurance Consortium. We've been in there for a while. We're at a consortium so a group can have more buying power for health insurance that ultimately increases every year. And these are bylaws and agreement that are just kind of still kind of aligning with new Ohio Revised Code and how the group is structured. Did I get everything, Mr. Dahlbaugh?
That was perfect.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Violi?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Motion carried. Moving on to Chief Business Officer's recommendations. Mr. Scarsapino.
Thank you, Mr. Violi. I have two this evening. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the purchase of 500 Samsung Chromebook 4s and 500 Google Chrome OS Management Console license for $94,800 from Staples Technology Solutions.
I will move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any further comments?
No, I took up enough of your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Scarsapino. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried.
My final recommendation this evening, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the contract and resolution using the Ohio Schools Council with GPD Group for facilities and site assessment services for up to $50,000 using 004 building project funds.
Motion to approve?
I'll second. Any comments?
No, sir. I've said it all.
Thank you, Mr. Scarsapino. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes,
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
motion carried.
That concludes my recommendations.
Thank you. Moving on to new business. Hearing none. And old business, I'll just mention, I don't know if you've talked to anybody at City about the sign ordinance and what the progress is, but no.
We'll
Just
continue to monitor it.
Figured I would mention it during the meeting like I said I would, so
Yes.
keep it on the front of our minds.
Yep.
Board President's recommendations. Item A is recommended the Board of Education approve the following board policies as shown in the attachment.
I'll move.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any comments?
What's the change in the graduation diploma requirements? Is there a change?
There are some that align with Ohio Revised Code.
Okay.
I can send you, if you want, the line item where Pepper and Wagner gives you line by line.
If you have it, that'd be great.
I
If
don't
it's
have it
easy.
here today, but I
That's
can
fine.
send it to you.
I'm just curious,
Yeah, they're minor changes.
That's
but
what I
they're-
figured.
Yeah, there's some new.
because I know we had the big change.
Yep.
Okay.
Please call the roll.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. And we're going to move to item B, executive session. It is recommended the Board of Education enter into executive session to consider the employment of a public employee or official with possible action to follow.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a first and second. Please call the roll.
Mr. Grimm?
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Bedford?
Yes.
Mr. Fulton?
Yes.
Mr. Violi?
Yes, motion carried. We're in executive session at 7:07.